Now today we're replacing the radiator, thermostat, hoses, and in the process I'll be removing and reinstalling the alternator AP1 S2000. Let's get to it. So let's start by draining the radiator. So we have the vehicle safely on jack stands, and if you're curious where to jack up the vehicle from, right smack in the middle we have a nice little plate. Fantastic spot. Now if you have the factory radiator, you have a drain plug right smack in the middle. Now here we have an aftermarket aluminum radiator. So what I'm going to do is simply remove the sensor that lives in the radiator, and all of the coolant will come out. You can even remove the lower radiator hose. Just make sure you set the heater inside the cabin to maximum and remove the radiator cap. Now this is a 24mm socket, same size as the factory sensor. And let's break this loose. Now this will make a little bit of a mess. So as the coolant drains, I'm just going to clean up this area so we have better access to the radiator. So these are 10mm fasteners. Now the overflow bottle is simply held in by a small bracket. And these are hose pliers, and as always I'll have a link in the description box below if you happen to need any tools. And then just remove anything left over that's surrounding the air box. So there's a fastener here, we have another fastener right down there, a rubber line, and then we can maybe finagle this out without removing the intake hose. Now if your hoses are very soft or rock hard, very good time to replace these. The lower one is not too bad on the S2000. The upper one, it's a little bit more work, but you can search and see how people remove them. Okay. Now what we're going to do is remove the lower radiator hose, and then we have some electrical connections for the cooling fans, and remove the entire assembly with the fan still attached to the radiator. There's no need to remove these first, just remove the entire assembly. So let's go ahead, remove that lower radiator hose from the radiator. If you have any spilled coolant, now is a good time to clean it up. I use Super Clean's floor absorbent because it doesn't create a lot of dust. Make sure nothing is attached. Okay. And then tilt it back so you don't spill any coolant. Now regarding the thermostat, just follow the lower radiator hose and it leads directly into the thermostat cover. This will probably be a combo of doing this on my back and also from on top of the engine bay. It's very, very tight. Now in my case, it is so tight, I'm having trouble just getting to the bracket that holds on the lower radiator hose. And I have angled pliers. I've tried from every angle. It's hurting my hands and it's being really difficult. So after 10 minutes, I think the best deal here is just to remove the alternator. Once I remove the alternator, I can get clear access to that bracket that lives on the radiator hose. Now, if you're removing the drive belt, just make sure you take a picture or a quick diagram showing how the belt needs to be reinstalled. So 14mm socket, 1/2-inch drive. If you have a long wrench, that works as well. Counterclockwise. There we go. Now the negative terminal to the battery is disconnected. This is a trim removal tool. It's a nice little set that I have. Again, purchased off Amazon many years ago, but I just used this to press on the tab. I don't want to use a flathead because it can break the housing. So use something that's a little bit gentler and then you're able to remove it from the body of the alternator. There's a fastener right here, and then we have two mounts that I'll show you in a second. And this top fastener, I'm just using a very long 12mm wrench, ratcheting end on one end and fixed on the other. Again, I'll have a link in the description box below to the tools, but you want something long. Let me spray some PB Blaster, it's a little tight. And then just two fasteners hold on the alternator. We have an upper fastener right there and a lower one right there. When it comes time to reinstall them, if you want to torque them, they are 33 foot-pounds. Once again, 14mm fastener and a long extension. Now I'm going to use a breaker bar. This is incredibly tight. Let me actually rotate this. There we go, makes all the difference. Once again, breaker bar. So certainly a little bit more work than what I was anticipating, but now we have really good access to that lower radiator hose. Now off camera, I just removed the lower radiator clamp, and when I reinstall it, I'll have it face down at the 6 o'clock position. So the next time someone needs to do this job, they can do this from underneath the vehicle. The other thing is, since I'm at this point, I'm just going to replace this hose. It also makes it easier to remove. So I just took a knife, scored a few lines. Now we can twist it off, and I can just replace the entire line. And to show you how I'm getting access to these fasteners, very, very long 10mm wrench, and you can clearly get access. That's the upper one. Now the lower fastener I removed from underneath the vehicle. Give the mount a good twist. Now the thermostat I wrestled loose with a screwdriver because it was really hard to get out. But here it is. Here is the old, probably original thermostat. So here we have the old thermostat and of course the brand new one, along with the new gasket. Make sure you replace the gasket. Now right here is a pin. Make sure this pin is pointing up when you reinstall a thermostat. In fact, there's a little ridge inside the mounting point for the thermostat so it fits just right. Very, very important. Those two fasteners for the housing, the thermostat housing, they're only tightened to 9 foot-pounds. So in other words, don't put a lot of force into them or they will snap on you. So now we have the lower radiator hose installed. It does take a little finagling to get that clamp on. I was able to do it. Let me show you how. Just a normal size pair of pliers, and with my left hand, this is the driver's side, with my left hand I was able to get access to it and just slip on the clamp. It's very tight. It's not easy on the S2000. Just take your time. It took me at least 15 minutes to get everything where it needs to be, but now we can at least install the radiator and bleed the system. Now before I install the new radiator, this is a brand new sensor that lives on the bottom driver's side of the radiator, and then I'll transfer the cooling fans from the old radiator to the new one. Don't forget your fan hookups. So everything is secure here. As you can see, it's nice and snug. Don't forget to transfer the old lower mounts to the new radiator. Now I'll be using a spill-free funnel. It's not necessary, but it makes the job a lot easier to bleed the coolant system. You have a number of different adapters for many makes and models, but in this case it looks like adapter C, and the cap labeled as C will work best. Now before we start adding fluid to the radiator, there are two bleed points on the S2000. One is right here. This is a 12mm fastener. Just loosen this and you're ready to go. Also on the firewall you'll find a heater tube right here, as you can see, and we will remove that as well. The point here is once you add fluid to the radiator, eventually you'll find just a little bit of coolant come out of this point as well as that point in the rear. So we have coolant coming out at the bleeder, and also look at the rear. Put the cap back on. Now as the vehicle is running, make sure you have the heater on. As you can see, I have the fan at full blast. And check for leaks. So it's been a few minutes, but watch, you see how air bubbles are being extracted from the coolant system? This is where this funnel makes a very big difference, makes the job really easy. Now the car has been running a good 10 minutes or so. It's slowly warming up. It's a little chilly out. But the other thing I'm keeping an eye on is the engine coolant temperature. I believe the fans kick on between 96 and 97 degrees Celsius. Let's get back outside and see what's going on. Okay, there's the cooling fan going. I know it's hard to see. So after a good 15 minutes or so, there are no air bubbles. Let me show you the heating vents. And we have, hold on, and as you can see we have really nice solid hot air coming out of the vents. So it looks like we're in very good shape. I'm going to turn off the vehicle, let it cool down, remove the funnel here, install the radiator cap, and we'll take it for a test drive. So now we're just going to drive around, make sure we have no cooling issues, and then I'll wrap it up by making sure we have no leaks. So it's been a good 15 minutes or so. I'm pretty much arriving back at home. I'll check for leaks one more time. The temperature is rock steady, so we are in great shape. It's not a hard job, take your time, and it's really enjoyable working on this car. It's very satisfying. And as always, thank you very much for watching.